Hello again, everyone, and welcome to part two. We're going to jump right into this where we left off. So, we finished A, B, and C here in the first uh, episode, and so this is going to read like I didn't explain this in the first one, but the cell numbers 1 through 40 and then A through K. I am going to kind of be, I'll refer to those as I'm just, I guess, bouncing around when I'm zoomed out. So if I do, just that's the way you know what I'm talking about. So first, we're going to skip over E and F here because we're going to kind of get into those later. For this video, I wanted to start on the yellow. So we'll kind of do what we did in the other one so we're not getting distracted here. All right, we'll put it right in the middle. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to continue like I was. I need to run the alphabet organizations with you real quick. Okay, now it's doing some weird. Okay. The SEC, this is Securities and Exchange Commission. The DTCC, that's the Depository and Trust Commission. They're very similar. The SEC kind of enforces the rules, and the DTCC is more on like the legislative side. But so we have the CIA and the FBI. Those are like Central Intelligence, Federal Bureau. They it's like the government police and well the government level of police. We got the United States Treasury, USDT, not to be confused with over here USDT as an altcoin tether, but we'll get into those. The Fed, we got reverse repossessions, that's the RRP. That's where recently printed money is showing up. So you can see kind of the temporary swap bailout in action if you go look at that. And the Fed is responsible for printing U.S. dollars, and they manage that. The Supreme Court of the United States and the Department of Justice, they're very similar. It's a judicial enforcement alphabet organizations. We got the FDIC. A couple other ones I included in here. So you can look all these up. We got OPEC, the CDC, the IRS. Okay, so the FDA and the WHO, the World Health Organization, and the I think it's like Food and Drug Police. These two kind of work together for part of what is now the big pharma bubble. So I'm going to get into that later when we're hopping around for bubbles. But so the WEF also they kind of oversee like all of these. So that's a World Economic Forum, and not good news in my opinion. But we're just gonna continue through these. I'm just kind of defining them for you real quick. Key collapses. So we got FTX. That was a crypto collapse with Sam Bankman-Fried. About a 40 billion valuation. So real quick, let me pull this up so I can just see it. Actually, it might be easier to navigate on old Reddit. Just find the correct DD real quick. Don't think it's that one. It's not that one. I apologize for this delay time. It's this one. Okay, so there's some links and stuff, but I highlight these all right here. Um, just those, like a few bubbles. There's a lot of notes on them. We'll come back over here. I don't think I need these ones open anymore. Okay, so Silicon Valley Bank I had there too. TerraCoin collapse I had there too. I just include some information on that, DD. You can check out the Reddit. Silicon Valley Bank was basically a big bailout of like some key market players, celebrities and stuff banked there, but uh, that key collapse it highlighted some of the other like banking strategies because this week, right? It's still uh, June 4th. I'm recording this like 30 minutes after part one. But uh, I think that's where the future banking's going. We got 63, 64 banks up on the chopping block, like just because of that Berkshire uh, Class A share thing the other day. So like I think the banks have been in trouble, but it's like now that that news hit, now the news can be like, okay, well we can talk about these other banks now. Like I don't know, it's just like per the narrative moving forward. But TerraCoin collapse, I just highlighted that one because that one it was tethered like bad. So when the base of the tether collapsed, the whole operation collapsed. So that I talk about tethering a little bit later, and this is just a key example of why it's bad to have tethering how we have it set up because it's basically it used to be like and so now a secure tethering would probably look like precious metals like gold as the standard, maybe a US dollar pegged to it, but then also managed with like a blockchain public ledger and then have an enforcement body like the SEC that will like regulate it. But right now they're not enforcing some of the currently existing laws. That's like some of the problems we're having. But so basically TerraCoin was just tethered to a fiat currency. So when the fiat got weak enough, the whole coin just collapsed because there was no underlying gold value or asset value or like regulatory bodies or like it's a big mess. So like I would have never even bought a security knowing that stuff, but they like to keep the altcoin market very diluted and mysterious, just like they're doing to the stock market. It's like they're gamifying everything, and it's straight evil. Actually, I'll cover it some more, but we'll move in. Evergrande. This is indicative of like a housing market problem more than a bubble. I would think it just this is China's housing markets, the largest company in China. It represents about 2% of their whole real estate. That's a lot for one company. But anyway, the whole company collapsed because a lot of their money was put into like building properties. And so I have ghost towns highlighted right down here in the housing bubble. Evergrande was like getting funded by getting approved for funding, and then they would just build buildings. But these buildings weren't like insulated, no electricity, water, gas. Like they weren't even like decorated. It was just like a concrete shell of a building. And then they package it in a company and sell that company as a stock to their citizens. And it's not a stock, it's the housing market. And they don't do stocks in China. It's the Communist Party of China's China. So like their citizens don't buy equity markets. They have to buy real estate if they want to make money sleeping or ever want to retire. And so what happened is they just built all these fake buildings for so long. Like it's just ghost cities. Whole cities are just big buildings that nobody does anything with. They can't even be used because they weren't finished. And then now there's no money to finish them. And like they have like loans that just backwashed like super bad, and it's all backed up. And then all their citizens would buy into this, and they were making money because the value's going up this whole time. But then all of a sudden it was evaluated and it's all fake and it's worth zero. So they're all of China's citizens just like got wiped. There's so many videos of them just like at their version of Wall Street like crying out front while there's just like the guy in the suit inside with all their money, and then it's illegal. So like it's actually not legal, but it's just fines for crimes is legal. So they can steal $1 billion and pay $100, and then it's legal. And then nobody asks about it or say anything or do anything about it. It's like that's the precedent. So Archegos. So that's a Bill Huang company. In episode 1, I showed kind of his scheme setup, like how he was like laundering money, and he did that through these like derivative metrics. But I was showing you like the scale that he did it on, and so he got busted, and it kind of like that money had to get moved, or like because he wasn't the only one kind of doing those kind of things, and he's working with people doing them, but they won't talk about it. So it's like a trickle truth thing where they only rat him out if they have to. So it's like we're finding one player at a time in this thing. So as Archegos collapsed, there was a few key players. Credit Suisse, who I have over here, and the fines for crimes, leverage. Okay, so and Melvin. So Melvin collapsed too. So that had to do with a lot of bad positions against GameStop in 2021. And then these were like the media fall companies, kind of. And Bill Huang just got busted because his scheme was like too over the top. He wasn't like, you can't hide that much theft that quick. So he just like got caught. And so anyway, I think like a lot of these obligations were packaged into swaps and rolled into different swaps to be handed off to a different bank. So UBS goes and buys them, and this is where I'm looking for the next market event. So maybe it might be UBS collapse, it might be a different bank, but I know UBS is in the danger zone, especially with that Berkshire Hathaway reorganization swap that we had to watch the other day. So all of these purple bubbles, I would eventually move over into like I have a historical section here. But for now, they're so recent, like there's still things going on, like FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried's like trial is still like precedent news and stuff like that, so I left them all in like current happenings. But more so than history, like some really key collapses, and I call them key because maybe some of in this orange box over here, the derivative metrics, we're going to be able to see some patterns with these ones. So we got Enron scandal and the dot-com bubble. So like there was a lot of like crime underlying behind all these, and that happens with people like Ken Griffin and Bernie Madoff running the market. I'm sure a lot of the market players knew what Bernie Madoff was doing before he got caught until he just like couldn't hide it anymore, and then they all have to be like, oh, we didn't know about that. Well, it kind of fell apart, and then they'll like the media like let it all get pinned on one guy, and then that's why like for all of 2008, like one guy went to jail, and it wasn't Bernie Madoff. That was like a little different thing, but it's like for all of 2008, one guy went to jail, and it was like way more than one guy. Like it's not even funny how we're in 2024 now, and like the remnants of that, still no one's answered for that. No one has paid for that, and then instead our government just got hijacked like since then here in America, and it's just been hijacked and then handed off for like president after president right now. And like I'll get into like the blackmail stuff later, but sometimes being this aware sucks. But you're welcome. I'm doing it to you. Okay, key bubbles. So we got the everything bubble, and I'm not going to talk about swaps yet, but once we get into derivative leverages, I'm going to come back to swaps, because then we're going to bounce around and line up everything that I'm teaching you. Okay, so we got a labor bubble. That's like stagnant minimum wage, but inflation. It's way bad right now. The ratio is so horrible. We got a raw materials bubble. We got housing. Those go hand in hand. As soon as like housing went off the hook, everything that makes a house just went off the hook. You could see spikes during COVID and a lot of stuff like wood, certain metals. Like there was a nickel squeeze. But I think it had to do more than just the housing bubble. So that has to do with the clean energy narrative, plus them fudging numbers on precious metals, plus their leveraged bad in metals through multiple leverages. So it gets pretty bad. We got okay, so the housing, I talked about ghost towns, and that had to do with loans, but even more so, housing loans. There's like two bubbles because we got the ghost towns that people are paying for, and then we got banks still giving bad loans to people just so they can do predatory interest and then come take the house back later. That was all in 2008. It was like a big rug pull on house buyers. They turned the housing market into commodity gaming, and they took a lot of people's houses because basically they're like, oh, you qualify to buy this house. Sure, here's a $300,000 loan. And then they reevaluate their loans in a year. And then everyone with those loans, they're like, oh, those are no good. Whoever bought those houses, go take them. And it just was a big disaster. And they did it on purpose. So now they had taken all that loan money. They stuck those people with like interest and ruined their credit so they can like never buy a house again. And now they're stuck renting. They created rent farm inhabitants by policy kicking them in the teeth. Like, so, and that now it's been 15 years, so those people are just borning people into rent slavery. Like, it's fucking nuts. I mean, it's freaking nuts, but you get the point. So, meme stocks bubble. That's his whole own thing. I covered that in video one. Some of the key players, like the meme stocks. It's its own bubble. We got the clean energy bubble and the carbon narrative. So, billionaires can fly in a jet plane where one trip is like 10,000 times the amount of carbon that a car would emit in a year. But since we're not in the rich category, in the top three layers here, it's so problematic if we have carbon. So even though carbon is literally plant food, but whatever. Precious metals. So we covered that. We're going to cover it a little more. Marijuana bubble. So I think we're going to see when like the MOAS goes down, we're going to see squeezes in multiple sectors here because we're going to see corrections across like precious metals, which goes as far up as like silver certificate fraud. Here we found bags of rocks in certain bank vaults already, so we already know the numbers aren't going to add up, and there's going to be a correction here. We got, precious metals, marijuana, crypto, and meme stocks. So I think all of these are going to just moon at one point or another, because during the correction, it's like these are the ones that are like over leveraged from bad bets in the market. But whatever system still running this thing is in denial of and trying to like correct it before it needs corrected, but it's just it's so far gone. Like there's nothing that can be done except just like let it happen now. It's like the bomb's been armed and there's not enough time to stop it. Get out. It's blown up. Then we're gonna like pick up the pieces afterwards. So I have the agendas narratives section. That's this whole section right here. And that's gonna kind of like bounce all these bubbles, like between all these bubbles. So I'll get in it when I get to that section there. But it's gonna involve big pharma, cryptocurrencies, student loans and student debt, and then credit card loans and credit card debt. So you can see we got like quite a number of bubbles going on all at the same time, and these are all in the everything bubble. And when I get to swaps, we're gonna get to why like each one is specifically leveraged a certain way. So down here I have some red stuff, which is like I couldn't fit in here. So that's it for like this key of the purple things. So I got a dark purple, a little more a lighter purple, just because so you could get a different of the alphabet organizations and the key bubbles, but then they're both purple because they all just like work together. This is the structure of who keeps the control. So now that we've covered the key bubbles, we're going to get to the red section last. But now I can hit this section over here, and we're actually going to start with this purple because it's very quick. I'll just read them off. Some major common taxes, various tax laws. So we got federal income tax, state income tax. We got payroll tax, which includes federal Social Security and Medicare. Medicaid is like similar to Medicare. I didn't also put it, but it's Medicare and Medicaid. One's for life and one is like a insurance. They're both insurance, but one is like a longevity plan. And so we also have local income tax, federal estate tax, federal capital gains tax. That's going to include short and long term. We have state and local sales tax, state and local property tax, state and local excise tax, federal excise tax, which is like gas, alcohol, tobacco. Those are just subject to more taxes for some reason because it's stuff that is like people like that stuff. So I have my other beer emoji. Not all of the emojis are doubled, but I wanted to prohibition control marijuana bubble. Definitely related to, it's just they did prohibition of alcohol already. And them doing it to marijuana is like them undermining our law again the same way. It's literally the establishment giving us the same middle finger. They're like, we have such control. We can run the same scam again. And like boomers who would maybe know of it have just retired, so we'll just get the young guys. And it's like the same freaking scam. And the same guys who pay for all this also paid to like put your teachers in place and pick the rabbis and all your political candidates through those big. That's why I showed you Ken Griffin's $20 million political donation after donation after. It's like the same guys paying to put all these people there just run the same thing over and over. And then they just always have all the money. No matter what. Oh, reform? Fine. We'll just reform our money into our own money right here instead of right here. No, it's like we're not having it this time. GameStop is going to take the money this time. That's why it's a big deal about what's happening. So back into taxes, federal import taxes and duties, and tolls and fees. Okay, so I just want to like list those because what happened to no double taxation? It looks like they were like, oh, well, if we have 20 taxes, that's not double. So now they're just taxing us like 20 times. It's just, we are completely undermined. No taxation without representation. Well, if they're buying officials, we are not represented. I don't know how we got this far. It's just so nuts to me. But I'll continue. So, taxes are done. I wanted to talk about problematic business incentives. So, I'll just list them out. I have mass layoffs tied to bubbles because that's the labor bubble in action as a consequence of like some of the policy they set up. But so we got problematic business incentives, outsourcing. They just, we don't want to pay Americans this much. Chinese people do it for less, so we're sending the jobs there. Sorry, American, you're fired because this guy will do it for 20% less. And then that's like a custom, and then like since that's been a custom for a while now China's neighbor, let's just say like a random country like Nigeria now will do it for 40% less. So now we're gonna just outsource to them and cut China out, and it's just continual outsource until like companies don't want to pay anything for anybody, and they just want full freaking slavery, and that's where we're headed if we just have like corporate America gets to pick, and that's what it is right now. So PPP loans. So I'm not going to jump too deep into those, but like if you qualified during COVID to get a PPP loan, then the government would basically like inquire about your company and you're like, say, oh, I hire 50 employees and blah, blah, blah. Say you qualify. So they give you like $10 million and you're supposed to like run your company with COVID, and it's a loan. So what was to be paid back, it's not going to be paid back. All these business owners that qualified, they pretty much got it, 10 million, right? Just for example. Say they got like that scale of money. And there's a manager to run my business. Say they don't outsource. They pay some guy like 70K a year to run their business. And then they have $9.93 million left. And they just freaking go to the Bahamas. And now they're like living on like the US dollar goes twice as far in other countries. So like they just doubled their money to 20 million worth to go while they don't ever close their obligations here. And then they're just going to like let the company be a $10 million hole in this country forever. That someone's managing for 50K until inflation is just going to eat them up and the company might close. And then the loan is just still on the hook and no one will ever find them because they're in the Bahamas like doing whatever, however long later. And then it's just, that's a whole disaster in its own. I'm not even going to, it's more, once they do that, it's easier for them to just let their company burn down here than to like continue taking responsibility for it. Like, why would they? They won already. They just won the American game. So they don't have to play anymore, and now everyone else had to pick up their shit. It's like it won't work much longer. So the $1,200 stimulus check was supposed to fix that, right? Like, oh, it'll just be balanced. But it's like they didn't. They also paid all the schools to not teach anyone financial literacy. So like, how many people bought flat screen TVs instead? Dude, stupidity is like America's biggest problem. And like, I live here and I grew up like, oh, I like this country. I'm gonna be proud of where I live. And it's just like, I'm watching it be like so dumb. Like, I can't believe it. It's just like, dude, no, this does not represent me. And I'll get into some other representations and stuff, but like in the same way, like, dude, there's no way, like, LGBTQ, for example, like, I know a lot of gay people that it's fine, whatever, like, I'm not gay, I'm straight as a whistle, but it's like, if you are, fine. I think there's like a line there, like, if you're gay, it's fine, but there is a line where if it's like, you're the kind of gay person who's like, I'm gay and everyone needs to know it, and then you're just like, but I digress. The argument I'm making is like, gay people are there and that they have their own lives and stuff, but the LGBTQ narrative, it probably doesn't represent like 90% of those people. Like, it's just completely whack. And maybe BLM would be similar, and so there's a lot of things being undermined. So I kind of like different texted this word undermined right here because like, undermining isn't illegal. So then they just undermine everything everywhere, and then they never break any laws, but just nothing even works. So it's like, I highlighted that word, but we'll get into that. I have that in the civil rights constitutional factors undermined, but it does apply to a lot of stuff we're talking about. So they operate on control, fear dynamics. I put fear over... where did I put it? Right here. Oh, that's its own agenda with leverage. Okay. So, right, fear is like, I don't know, some companies will... Oh, just skipped around there. Some companies will use fear as leverage. And, like, I've always not liked that. Because, like, well, I've been a business manager, and I'm like the cool one who always gets in trouble for stuff because I won't, like... full corporate and like whip my employees, for a lack of a better metaphor. But you know what I mean? It's like they want the guy in the position who will just like walk all over everybody and like make money. They don't want the nice guy who's understanding, who can also make money, because then it makes the evil guy look bad. So they only want like, and not that he's evil, but it's like maybe lack of knowledge is a better thing. Because like restaurant, for example, a lot of those guys will like be servers and then step up to management. And then they don't go any farther. So they just like, they stop there. And then that's like, they're like, oh, I'm somebody now. I'm a restaurant manager. So the 3 people working for me, they're going to do what I say. And it's like, I don't know. It just gets to some people's heads. Not everyone should be a leader. But now with like I'll get into it later, but it's undermined so many ways, and every time I get to it, as I'm going through these, I'll just be like, here's an undermine, here's an undermine, here's another. It's bad. So, uh, demotivation and demoralization. Oh, let's get rid of the this. Oh, I got this all spread out right now. So, yeah, toxic tip culture. So I was like touching on that with restaurant. It's just restaurants a really good example of some of this stuff because okay, toxic tip culture, right? Say a restaurant owner gets a PPP loan for 10 million and pays a manager 100K and then they leave. So there's 100K now. And then the manager gets 100K to run the restaurant. It doesn't matter if it does good or bad. And then still it doesn't matter if it does good or bad. Say the company profits $10 million. Great. That goes to the owners and this they get even more money in the Bahamas. So the manager still only gets 100K. But then you're going to make all the people who made that money, the waiters, just fight each other for the scraps on top of the payment and the taxes and the profits. So it's like, dude, it's not just slavery. It's like they got us so enslaved and then unaware, and then they're gonna make us like fight to the death. Like it's so freaking crazy. I can't believe it's so bad. And then like I worked in a restaurant, but it's like I don't even want to tip anymore. Like I just don't go out to eat because it's like I want to tip because I know that the person getting the tip needs it. But I'm not going to tip because I know when I go tip, the corporate manager has doubled the tip in his favor, and then he's laughing at the person who got the tip and been like, now that you tipped here, that makes me live another day, and I'm going to make them work for me even longer. And it just keeps it going. It's just never going to stop. So problematic business incentives. The whole thing doesn't work good. So we got things like Roth IRAs, 401ks, and pensions. So they want you to invest your money for what, like 3% returns a year? Well, GameStop spikes 3,900% in like a week. Dude, and they're playing that game while you're working for 50 years to maybe double your money. No, dude, I would never get any of these. I don't have any. All my savings is in a direct registered with my stock certificates in an account now because it's like, dude, cash is about to just get destroyed. Everything's tethered onto like ridiculous fiats where it's like once that gets destroyed, everything else is going to get destroyed. And they have their whole swaps debt tethered to fiat. So like they want to roll it into a central bank digital currency so they can just be like, oh yeah, obligation's gone. But it's like that they stole from multiple generations, not just for like to be better, but like so they could just have everything in the face of everyone else. So it's like not only is it horrible and evil, but it's going to screw this whole world up. But it's okay because 200 people get to have like golden toilets. No, you see, there's 8 billion people here, and there's room for 50. So like, dude, or more. We can get innovative with that many minds, but if the government going to be like, let's just dilute and run like small scale genocide narratives everywhere, it's like it's evil. So it's crept everywhere, and we're very far deep in all this. So I called that the toxic tip culture, demanding unhealthy competition. So the American standard is becoming a high amount of work for a low amount of reward. And then if you question it, they just fire you and replace you with 3 people who come through the Mexican border today. Because they'll just like work for free almost. Because they're just getting untaxed incentives to come here. But then everyone who's in the tax system, like we're going to pay like this many taxes though. It's nuts. So undermined. That's what I meant in the first episode when I said passionate. I'm not angry or anything. I talk like this. So stagnant wage growth. I hit that on a point earlier. Price gouging. So, okay, inflation, right? A lot of these companies whose prices have already doubled and stuff, inflation's only 3%. So, once this inflation kicks in, how are you going to increase your prices anymore? You already did. these companies already shot themselves in the foot, and it's about to come around. And I'm talking about like all restaurant. You see stuff happen with like Red Lobster right now. Chipotle's overvalued. Well, these predatory companies are going in, buying the whole company, and then they just lease it back to the same company owner, and then they'll like pay that guy off to just shut up. And then the whole company just like liquidate itself in interest for the guy who bought it, and while the company just dies over like 10 years. And it's not even like becoming a zombie stock anymore, which was like shorted companies. It's like, oh, we can't short it anymore, so we'll just buy it and poison it. And then like charge them interest to eat their own poison. That is so crazy that, and that's what I meant by like, it's like the same big people like, oh, we have all the money and we're going to just rig it different and move it over here and still have it all. And it's like, that's why GameStop's awesome. We have like 2-factor, 7 market layer, like fixed this just in one company. And then that all of a sudden is just the biggest, most problematic thing that's ever happened in history. Like they hate GameStop more than they hate January 6th. And it's like the same big money. So, okay, I'll finish with this problematic business incentives part, but investment plans, it's kind of what I was talking about with like the Roth and the 401ks. It's like, oh, man, they're standardizing 4% returns in a year, but they're over here doubling their money every week on your bank account, which they just fractionally reserve, like, and take your money without your permission. So while you have money in your 401k making 4% and money in your bank account not making money, they just take all the bank account your money, triple it, quadruple it, and then they like won't give any loans, and they'll just charge you interest, and then if you don't have enough money they'll charge you for that, and then they'll put fees on whatever the fuck. And it's way too crazy, and there's no accountability, and then no rules enforced. So like it's like, once again, JP Morgan steals $1 billion, and because of it 50,000 people get fired and 10,000 die. But they paid $50, so the government is just going to put it on the books as fine number 7,484, and they shouldn't do it again tomorrow. And they're like already doing it for the next fucking 2 years, but they shouldn't be doing it tomorrow, so the government's just not going to look. Don't ask any questions, and you voted for us, and we should get a raise. Let's vote on our own raises. It's like, just that's how they act now. It's just so crazy. And work-life balance, lastly, for problematic business incentives, because that doesn't exist anymore. If you have to work 4 jobs for just a car loan, how are you going to ever have a family or a house or free time or anything? They're going to start having a breathing tax soon. Okay, so now that we covered those, let's talk about the civil rights section real quick. Because there's a couple important things here. So let me open my Reddit again real quick. Not this one. Oh, wait. So sorry. Yeah, I'm talking about super PACs, right. That is going to be on this page. It's one with the open source picture. Oh, open secrets. Yes, this one. Okay, so Ken Griffin's donor list. Oh yeah, super PACs. That's what I was looking for here. Oh yeah, that's the problem. Old Reddit. I just gotta put this not on old, because old is good for navigating old Reddit, but it doesn't display any of the hyperlinks or pictures. So, but on the new Reddit, if I try and navigate, it has comments and stuff in the way, so it's hard to find. So yeah, talk about super PACs. Super PACs were made possible in 2010. So it's never been legal to donate more than $5,000 to a candidate until 2010, and then all of a sudden you can just donate as much as you want. And that's a problem, because now the billionaire can just pick the political candidate. Because me, working for $7 an hour, Like, dude, that doesn't go very far. Like, how I'm gonna donate $7 to my candidate, but the guy who just get $20 million definitely gonna win, no matter what or who gave it to him. So it's like they have incentivized evil. This happened in 2010 under Obama, and I said thanks Obama on my caption on this, because that's the real thing we should thank him for, because that's what he did. And this is part of the handing off of power that has been corrupt. Like, we've been in a hijacked government for a long time, even before Obama. So, like, Bush oversaw 9/11, and then we just let go of it, Iran, and we're supposed to be there. And then we end up in Afghanistan, and then we just gone. It just so much happened that shouldn't have, while the volley keeps getting handed. And the reason Trump was a big deal in 2016 is because they were all insiders, and Trump was not an insider. Yes, Rich, not an insider. And he threatened the insiders because he's just going to be like, I'm going to talk about what I talk about. And he's learning a ton by being in office. So, like, I think he set some kind of he set a lot of good policies in which when Biden came in, he had to just reverse immediately, which showed a lot. And it set it up kind of where it's like, whatever president takes it next, they're going to look good after this no matter what, because it's just like everything was so crazy in the last couple of years. But I think it was like set up to kind of like, not that it's like a left versus right thing, but it was like the president's been handing off this corrupt thing for so long, and then an outsider come and then stifle it. He's like the DFV for GameStop, but it's like a more political thing. So I have a history of super PAC laws here on this DD. You can go look on it on my Reddit profile. And I talk about how it undermines like some of our laws and like some of this. And then also, so U.S. repeals propaganda ban 2013. So all of a sudden propaganda is just legal. And you can go look up the history of propaganda laws too, but it has not been legal until 2013. So how 2008 happens and they take all our stuff and then they outlaw all our freedoms. It's that we've been hijacked for a while. And I think this goes back to 1971 when they unpegged the US dollar to the gold standard. And now we just have US dollar as a fiat, 54 years disconnected, and then they pegged everything else to it. While they just like don't have honest data about gold, and you can't look. They don't release pink sheets, and it's like government protected private information. So they get to just put out fake numbers for everyone to look at, and then they won't tell anyone what actually happens. And it's absolute crap. So moving forward, oh yeah, I was looking at taxes. So I used Perplexity, the AI program, to just like, all I did was I found this information about PACs, and I was like, can you give me a history about super PACs? And it gave me all this information. And then I got this, and then I could post a thread. I have all of my a Perplexity thread saved, so if anyone wants to go look at like how I ask these questions, like you kind of have to like, I wouldn't say gaslight the program, but if you ask it a certain way, it's going to give you the information in a certain way. So like knowing these programs is pretty good. But yeah, I don't have any problems releasing those. If anyone like watches this and wants to see, I didn't include them here. I'm not gonna really like go that deep right now in that. But if anyone would like to see them, I can post them. Also, I have some tax stuff. Look, it literally says right here like no double taxation is eroded. We're subject to like multiple levels of taxes on income and purchases, and yeah, it even talked about no taxation without representation. Look, it says the American colonies originally invoked this slogan to protest being taxed by British Parliament. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Britain in a little while here, but okay, without having any representatives that that a governing body does. So today we're paying federal taxes, but we don't have voting representation if they can just outlaw propaganda and PACs. Like, it's just, okay, and look, this DD is actually like shit no one's talking about. 47 likes. It's like when I put this stuff here, nobody sees it. Nobody sees it at all. But if I don't, I'll get like 1 million views and like 5,000 likes. So you can see on some of my posts are like more than others, and like I've removed some. but it's just crazy the amount of reach I have. And then when I say a certain word, I don't have it. So I won't be tagging the YouTube a certain way when I do put this content up. But I just wanted to show you that I did outline some of the legal ramifications there. And now I can kind of brief this. So super PACs, lobbying. So lobbying is like a different, it's like another layer of super PACs where they can just donate specifically to political candidates through like charities and trust funds. I have schools listed here too because you look at like how they do tax loopholes, and then Ken Griffin donated like $400 million to Harvard, so now he has a $400 million tax credit when he's facing getting liquidated. So he can get liquidated, and then he still has a $400 million tax credit though, because they won't go liquidate his credits or his. So he stole all this money, and he's going to spend the next 4 years like buying properties, so that when they seize all his money, he doesn't have any money left. He just has a bunch of properties which aren't legislated for seizure. It's like he's just working another loophole so he can move his money from here to here and still have it all. And it's like, dude, that's why we need to like. I'm not even gonna go into like what the guillotine represented back in the day, but like, dude, we at least need like prison for life and no more trading ever again for these people. Like minimum. It's just so crazy. It's like grand larceny, racketeering. Like it's treason. It's not even like, oh, small crime, and then they get a pay a fine, but then like they put a marijuana smoker in prison for life type shit. It's like, what the? It's going on. What is happening? It's just so crazy, and I can't not put all this stuff together and like get passionate, because it's just like, it doesn't just smell like bologna. It smells like bologna. It looks like bologna. It feels like bologna. It tastes like bologna. And what's the other sense? It's bologna. It is. So like, and I mean that in like the cuss word version of what bologna means. But I'm trying to watch my diction here. I digress. So MIT's no better. They just have all their students, the brightest minds, right? I mean, the whose parents paid to put them there. Anyway, they just sell all the data to China, and then the school gets a kickback from that, and then now China it can weaponize information against us, and then like no one in this country is even allowed to go to MIT almost because it's just so expensive, and then they just import all their kids on like scholarships, and there's just like no scholarships for tax-paying people, but they have like the Hispanic scholarship for being a Hispanic though. It's like the whole thing is so undermined. So we got propaganda ban revealed. Oh, by the way, I know I said like the Hispanic. I'm not racist in the slightest. I speak Spanish. I'm passionate, and the Hispanics who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. And that's not just Hispanic, it's like every race. It's like they have scholarships for almost everyone except for like native taxpayers at this point. And it's crazy. And it's not a racial thing, although the media will paint it that way, but it's like a rich control over poor thing. Because like now they don't do scholarships based on merit. They're like, who has Native American Indian blood? You get to go to college for free. Who did this? They get it. But it's like, it's just crazy. Every single thing is nuts. And so propaganda, we talk about that. Free speech is undermined. I'm not even going to talk about the vaccination campaign and the mask mandates, and then like them kicking everybody off Facebook and Twitter for saying the government sucks in 2013. Like, dude. I put the word for it in here somewhere over here. We'll get to it. Where they ban you off the internet for what you say. So, Affordable Care Act, it's so affordable that I haven't even gone to a doctor as a citizen in like the last 10 years because like I just don't do healthcare anymore. I'm healthy too, and I just don't eat like that much salt and sugar and exercise, and like it's not that hard, and I stayed away from like all the mainstream health problems. And I highlight some medical stuff up here, but we'll get to that. Democratization of addiction's big. Oh yeah, that's the little symbol I put over here with the position closed versus covering. Remember in January they're like, Oh yeah, we covered. Well, they wanted us to think they closed, and they didn't. And covering doesn't mean anything. It means like literally, we've successfully bullshitted you by not closing. It's so crazy, but we're all still here. Okay, so no taxes. We cover taxes, greedflation, vaccines, microchips. It's just more undermining freedom, taking away freedoms for microchip. Get borderline like mark of the devil type thing. But I thought the vaccine was in that category too. But apparently things can get worse. So I think the vaccine campaign was more of like governments and big pharma colluding up to a certain success, and then they're like, all right, let's run this public and see if enough people will just get this thing without doing research. And then so many people got it, so they're just like, oh yeah, we could definitely rig everything, and then they're just doing it. So here we are. Checks and balances I have in blue. That goes over to governments because they're creating policy, and then they just like let all of this happen the whole time. It wasn't like it's just like, this is the standard. This is a good business model. No. Idiotic business person would. I like a Goldman Sachs criminal would look at this and be like, oh yeah, this is an awesome document. But then like any business owner is like, oh my god, this is happening. Holy. It's like, how is the two different perspectives happening at the same time? And then it's like, dude, this is good versus evil. Like, and they'll want us to fight over like black versus white though, or men versus women, or right versus left, or like the great narrative of division, right? So I'll cover some of that stuff later, but let me get into the rest of this purple before we move over there. Oh, you know what? We're doing blue first. So, okay, I wanted to I highlighted this section here because I'll plug in some things to this, but we have entertainment, and I highlight them because once we get into these yellow words, entertainment. So I guess I could talk about the yellow words real quick. So I have highlighted in yellow: crime, Ponzi scheme, entertainment, board of directors, police, political parties in Hollywood, PACs. I also have highlighted in yellow: insiders, megacorp, the media, division, crime pays. Megacorp again. Okay, but so you can see the little yellow words that I highlighted, and so crime is paying in a Ponzi scheme where they use a board of directors and super PACs and division and the media and megacorp and insider knowledge to run money. So they do that through entertainment and gambling, and they do it through more than entertainment, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Oh, I also have culture highlighted in yellow because this is all culture now. So, record labels, which is music, and then the Ticketmaster Live Nation thing. Oh, LYV, that company I brought up a little bit in the first one right here. That goes into this too, because I think that company is about to go bust based on like their whole company's built on fraud and schemes and fees for so long, and then the executives are like working like literally with like Disney producers, and I don't know if y'all are gonna watch the like 50 Cent's about to drop a narrative exposing the whole music industry. And or no, it's like 50 Cent and P Diddy, and like it's related to like a lot of this. So see how I have the yellow word here and the red word on the same line here, and pedophilia, and it's because the red chain of events too. So let's read that one real quick. We got planted officials, Boston Consulting Group, billionaire philanthropist, charities, blackmail, UBS, because it's all culminating here right now. We got Inverse Kramer, blackmail again, BCG again, PACs also. I have APAC here from a specific thing that I'll talk about later, but PACs, just bad news, yellow and red, because it's just the centrifuge of funding baloney. And we got exempt market makers from this, and international banks, and code signals. So it's like, dude, this red is bad news. Anyway, they line up here on the same line. And so we got, that's how it works. I'll get into it more later, but let me finish this blue section, and then I'll come back here and we'll run this purple. So we got, record labels, which is like scouts, but that goes like sports, etc. Any entertainment scouts. WWE, for example, I put there. That's like a that one's already kind of being exposed. I think like the Vince McMahon, the leader of the WWE, he's already like in litigation right now for like this line. So we're gonna see more of that, especially as like this year keeps going and like after that 50 Cent documentary comes, and that's connected to the Fall of the Cabal movie I told you to watch. So like watch that, and more gaming. Okay, so gambling, gaming, almost the same, but it's like they gamify this, and this is where they make money. So sports, casinos, racing, Olympics. It's like they rig the whole thing because if they fund the development of sports and then the organization of sports and then all their friends or every billionaire that owns all the teams, it can always go their way. That's how it goes. That's why like if the economy is about to turn in favor of not them, then COVID might just happen, or it just a lot. There's a lot, and I'm not gonna jump into like what these are. Y'all know what the Olympics are and stuff, but it's related to what I'm gonna get into. The meat of this, the red part over here, when I start really giving y'all the scoop. So we got globalization that I have under agendas and narratives because it's undermined. Like globalization to me is like, let's get all the countries and races working together for like good things. Like let's get to Mars. Let's clean the oceans. Let's end world hunger. Let's get this freaking bottom line over here. Prison reform, like these debt slaves, the homeless, the veterans that are disenfranchised, the mentally ill. Let's get them some help. Like, I can't stress it. It breaks my heart watching this shit. Dude, there's more people on the corner begging for stuff here, at least at Houston. Every day. Every day there's like a new guy standing next to the old 10 homeless people. Like, and now they're sharing a box. And then, like, this is what happened in 1945, and then soon the government's going to be like, oh, we need to round up all these poor people for their own good, and then they're going to be in Camp America, and it's going to be freaking retarded. And I use the hard R word, not in an offensive manner, but to highlight how stupid it is. It's not just stupid, it's ludicrous. It's just absolutely insane. It's just, I said I couldn't believe it like 5 times already, and it just like, that's where I live now. I just live in disbelief because nothing happens how it should or could. And it's not just like, oh, it falls apart. It all happens worst case scenario every time now, and everything's politicized. It's like, of course it's worst case scenario. It's like, of course mass layoffs. Of course the companies are collapsing. Of course there's no money, except for like those 200 people. But everything's okay because those 200 people are good. Yeah, so like don't panic down here. See where I'll go with this? But I digress again. Okay, so there's a lot of things that undermine globalization. We got abortions going on, and then that's another political thing. Like they repealed the main act from abortions or whatever, and then it just like made the argument about abortions even worse. And they did it to just set that thing on fire and let it be a bigger fire. Like, okay, we got a porn ban. Okay, on that note, I think we need a porn ban. Because, like, I don't want my kids finding that. Like, fine, make it regulated, have a membership if you want to do it. Like, it can exist. People are free to do that. It's better than, like, prostitution and even cheating. Like, I get into kind of, like, OnlyFans and male loneliness, the family dynamic, mental health epidemic, narcissism. Like, there's a lot that plugs into this that we don't need it. There's no room in society for, like, half this crap. And we could just get rid of it, but it's empowered. And then, so I'll get into those when I get into them. I'm going to just, like, stay on this blue box for now. So we got medical. So that's a whole bubble. Yeah, drugs, like cartels, like, oh, the whole organized Ponzi megacorp government is in a cabal, but we got to go after those weed dealers. We got to get them. Insulin. Okay, that's the one where the CEO like times 1,000 the price because he legally could, and then everyone who needs insulin is now dying because they just can't get it. And I want to see that guy in prison for life. He should be, or something similar. Why can't another country's border be open and we just send them all over there? I say that to draw attention to ours, but that's not the answer. Like, we need to lock up who should be locked up. It's that simple. But instead, the other countries are literally emptying their prisons to put them here because it's incentivized. Why? I can tell you why, but we're going to get into it. Fentanyl. Okay, that's just dangerous. It's like these guys are like, oh, we cut cocaine, but it's 10% lower price, so we're going to like cut 10% of it with fentanyl so no one knows it's not cocaine, but it's ultimately going to kill 10% of our customer base, but we need that 10% income right now. So, and it's like, that is not a good business model. But fentanyl goes more than that, but that's just like the drug bubble. It's really bad. But it's pinnacled around marijuana. If the government stopped prohibition on marijuana and let us have like tobacco, weed, alcohol, dude, 99% of people wouldn't even like mess with the other stuff. They radicalized marijuana as the gateway drug so they could make money off of it being illegal and then controlling everybody with it. And like because you can see once they made alcohol legal, it's like fully taxed and regulated with tobacco, but then marijuana is not. So once marijuana is, they're going to come try and take cigarettes again. Like, it's just going to be stupid. And it's like, it gets into like generational cycles. So you get like a strong generation makes a strong environment, which breeds a weak generation, which breeds a weak environment, which will breed a strong generation. And the whole thing just circles. And so if a generation is about 20 years, on average, some kids have kids at 15 or less, or some kids wait till 30. Let's just say 20 is an average. So 20, 20, 20, 20, everyone's having a kid. And that would make the cycles like the same distance apart, just for like this lesson I'm going to teach you. Just say it happens that way. It's a little skewed, but like, so cycles of humanity. So we can take this all the way back to like 1607 when this country was founded, and we had like Tulamania and that millennium and stuff like that, because it was like their own revolution. But then you fast forward like a certain number of days, and there's a certain event, and then you fast forward a certain number of days, and there's a certain event, and a certain number of days, and a certain event, and a certain number of days, and a certain event, and a certain number of days, and a certain event. So like, and I'm talking about like, let's say COVID-19, right? Well, we're gonna round years just to, because like there's that little room for error on the me making everyone 20 years old, and they might have been 21 or whatever. But so 2020 is the year of COVID, right? So you go back 4 cycles, that's 80 years ago, which was 1940, which is when World War II was happening. Well, let's go back 4 more times to 1860. Well, that sounds like the Civil War to me, but what do I know? Well, let's go back 80 years before that. What was that, 1776, 1780? Like, that's the Declaration of Independence. I don't know, it just, we keep declaring our independence over and over because we keep forgetting. And we keep having a Holocaust every millennium because we keep forgetting. And we're right on time for this one. That's why the Mayan calendar could predict it, and why the whatever the other calendars are, it's just like, oh, the planets are aligning. It's like, no, it's like they know we forgot again, so they're running their freaking scam to keep all the money. That's it. What's good about the stock market is, as scam as it is, people like me can get into it and figure it out and like, red pill, blue pill, like get out of the system. But it's like, it takes a lot to do that, and it shouldn't. And the fact that it'll disenfranchise 99% of people, that's why 99% of people are losers, because they don't like put this together. I don't mean losers, I mean like lose in the stock market because they'll give up before it's because that learning curve. You need like 6 months to digest all this information and then like some practice, maybe bet $100 and lose it so you know how you lost it, and then you're gonna be like, oh, like now I know where to put my money because like I know how this whole thing works. And it's like it should work on supply and demand and fundamentals, but it does not. And I think after a correction, we're going to return to that, and it'll just gradually distort again until 80 years it's this bad, and it just that's what's going to keep happening. But knowledge is power, so that's why I'm explaining it to you guys. I don't know how I got onto that tangent with this little medical bubble here, but we'll continue. So hydroxychloroquine, that one, it was like a big deal on COVID because like it was literally clearing COVID symptoms, and then they're gonna pitch like, no, you need the vaccine, not that, and then they like ban everyone who talks about hydroxychloroquine, and then they pushed the COVID vaccine, which not only didn't work, it's causing other health problems now, and there's various lawsuits against the companies, and those companies all had in their terms and conditions like, oh, we're not liable, and then the government just still funded their development, so it's like they can't even be sued now for literal genocide, and it's like everyone who walked into that kind of had it coming, and I have sympathy for those people because I respect like even people who got the vaccine because it's not their fault, and it's like it's scary because it was just like we didn't know enough, and it's turning out like it was bad news, and it's there's people that got the booster like 10 times and were still like, oh, I can't wait for my 11th one. So I'm unvaccinated. I'm not that I'm like afraid of it. It's just like, oh, one mosquito was harmed in the making of this video. Sorry about that. But I digress. We'll continue. It's a prey on the weak mentality, and it's bad. Okay, so I put HIV here because I'm not even going to go into virology, but I think if anything good does come out of the COVID vaccines, we might get a little bit of development in virology. But we could have done that way better. Like it did not have to be how it is, and I don't think we're done seeing how it is. We're already down this path, so it's not over. It's going to be like, you remember the Confederates and the Union in the Civil War? I seen a Family Guy or Simpsons episode about it, but like pretty much the people who wanted slavery, everyone was like, oh, those are the good side of this war the whole time. Until finally the South lost, and they like lost slavery, and then eventually it was just like reorganized and repackaged until we're now slaves in like this new layout that I'm talking to you guys about. But it's like it's the same thing just back then, and then they did a good job on that, the animated episode that I was talking about, because finally after the war was over, it did like a 10 years later, and then they like the Confederates are like really old, but they're like finally respected now, but they're all like retired and stuff, but they were right the whole time and had to like take the flak for however long and like see the whole revolution and war end before everyone was like, oh, they were right. And then like they probably like did something like what I'm doing and like got involved in stuff like this and got in the stock market at the time and got out because like they're just like, all right, screw this. If slavery going to be precedent, like we're getting out, and it's their version of this time ago, and it's just this is what's happening now. So that's the blue box. Now I can get into, all right, I'm going to cover what I just didn't do in here because this is quick stuff. So yeah, rules for D but not for me legislation. We'll see where that plugs in here a few times, but it's pretty, that's how it is. It's the division of like the top half and bottom half of this thing over here. So we got treason, consequences, punishment, fairness. We kind of covered some of those. You'll see where they apply. You know what they are. So we got world hunger, rehab, environmental. Oh, that's where I was talking about kind of like making the world better. Some of the problems we got to look at. Okay, so we got advanced weapons on the table, and I'll get into that a little more over here. I talk about something related, and I'll hop back to it. I just wanted to state it here this way, so when I get to it, we know it's included. not to like go to conspiracy land, but of conspiracy land, let's talk about like documents that have come out. Like not conspiracy stuff, real stuff. So we got Biden's Black Book, and we got Hunter Biden's laptop and Anthony Weiner's laptop, which are both incriminating because of this line. And it goes farther than just Anthony Weiner's and Hunter Biden. If you don't know about it, learn about it. Clinton's emails and so the list is a stereotype, but it's like if you know too much, your car might just explode. Or anyway, it's like since Benghazi, no one's trusted her, so she got like the list stereotype for like people who disappear on the insider thing. But I don't necessarily blame Hillary Clinton for that, but it's like it's a stereotype for a reason, and the people who've ended up on those lists kind of like have some similarities. And then I'm even going to talk about the list of like Hollywood people who might be associated with this line, because I don't want to insinuate anything that's like not proven. But like there's just, why does that exist? It's either a false illusion or it's real. So it's like, dude, that list shouldn't exist, but it does, and we can't get to the bottom of it. And it's just like, why? Where did that list come from? Who's developing it? What? Like, so I'm covering it as a part of this whole thing. There's stuff I don't know about it. We're going to move forward. The revolution will not be televised. Like, Project Veritas are probably as close as you get, because that's like what journalism's left. New Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, MSM. I might have messed one of those at CBS. Dude, those are all like, they should have to say at the beginning, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, because it's like a straight entertainment show. But then they straight give bad financial advice on those things. Like, they'll tell you, oh, this is why it's good to buy blue chips this week, minus 15%. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's so crazy. And I highlighted Inverse Kramer, and that's an ETF that people like me made. And if Jim Cramer, which is like the guy who talks about stocks on the mainstream media, if he says, buy this, people short it. And if he says, short this, people buy it. It's literally the exact opposite of what this guy says. And it's a really profitable ETF. It's so crazy because he lies so consistently. You get better returns than in your 401k. Like, it's crazy. But Donald Trump versus Joe Biden round 2. And related hypocrisy. Okay, so the media is going to pump this. We got like a debate with them coming up. Yeah, we got like one debating from prison and then one who can't read a script. So, and we don't even know if he actually can read a script and he's pretending. And we don't know if Donald Trump should be in prison or he shouldn't. So it just like adds layers of confusion to this thing, like we've seen everywhere else. And of course, it's going to get this crazy. And I'm not even going to point out any other like data similarities. We'll keep tearing through this. So we covered here down. We got this section. We got this section. More red and yellow lining up here. I just included them in this idiosyncratic risk spread group because they'll have like Boston Consulting Group managing their planted companies. Their Boston Consulting Group is like how zombie stocks started. So we'll get to that, but Boston Consulting Group is bad news. They were actually involved at GameStop right in like the beginning of 2021, and then Ryan Cohen came in and fired Boston Consulting Group, and it was awesome. Like, it just made the media even less credible when they started like lying because GameStop started moving and they knew why, but they would say it's moving because of other reasons so they could try and change it. But then, like, as these things kept falling apart, they would have to change their reasons, so it really like stifled the media super hard. It was awesome. And Ryan Cohen did that like within his rights, and not even by saying anything. He just like, oh, you're fired. We don't want you on the board anymore. I want this guy on the board, and then he put like an actual credible person there. So uh, it's just way better, and there's a lot going on within that company right now, GameStop, but we'll stay on this purple here. So idiosyncratic risk spreading, so cross-border order routing. So I link that to shell companies over here, and that is in arbitrage, which I also have linked to stock splits and spoofing, which I'll get into. But so cross-border order routing and shell companies. So what they'll do is it's fines for crimes, right? So they have to limit that as low as they can. So it's like risk management should be like avoiding risk, but their risk management is like, all right, our core is risk now, so we're managing not getting caught. So it's like a whole different game now for these guys. So what they do is if they break a law, they'll route it to the country where it's not breaking a law or where it's the lowest fine. And then that way so they'll have a company, like say I'm a guy here and I'll make like a Deven company LLC. But I want it to be based on the internet, not in America. So then I can go break a law, and then I can route that order through Nigeria, and it wasn't illegal in Nigeria, so I'm good, even if it's illegal here. But then say something's illegal in Nigeria, but not in China, so I'm routing that order to China, so I can get away with it, not to Nigeria. And then so the one company will have one link to every single country, and they'll just route the order where they won't get in trouble for it. And what they'll do is create shell companies in every company. So then, like, when the order does get rid of that company, it's like some company no one's ever even heard of. So Citadel's routing it to, like, Deven LLC in Nigeria. And no one even knows until we have to, like, go find it. Because they're only going to trickle truth us. They're going to be like, yeah, Citadel's the number one market maker. Period. It's not the Ponzi web of multi companies that spread across like multiple legislations, and it's just they're gonna dilute it. It's like turning 8 into 2 to the power of 3. They're gonna derivatize the information so you see 2 with a little 3. You don't see 8. Wait, it's the same thing. So then they'll democratize diction and pay for the schools to not teach financial ed until we got a whole generation on like TikTok who like get paid to put the stupidest video up that they don't even know the shit's going on, as they just completely take over the world. It's so dark. So I have overseas routing, law skirting, family offices in that category for additional information. So influence on policy, and I put the little star in this one and this one, because we're going to go down and see how the Bill of Rights, this stuff, and this stuff, bad loans, propagates like all of these things, and then how those create bubbles and leverages. So we got any more on this? So cross-border order routing, XRT is an example. So that's an ETF, which is where if I have AMC, GameStop, say they're both $5. I'll put them together in one company called Together. Now, Together is an ETF because it has both of those. So it's an electronic fund with like multiple assets in it. And they can put whatever they want in these and package it however. And they can just like make another one. I could put like, so I have GameStop and AMC in Together. And then I could put GameStop and microphone in music. So then I have like 2 different things with GameStop in it. So now when they want to mess with GameStop, they don't just go mess with GameStop. They just jack with music over here. And then it also jacks with Together and jacks with GameStop. So it's like they'll just like do this all day and jack wherever no one's looking. But they don't jack where everyone's looking. Just only where no one's looking, and they know how it's going to like hit everything else. So then say like Together has GameStop and AMC and they're both $5. We'll say AMC will go up to 6 and GameStop go to 4. Well, it's like the ETF will stay zero because like the valuation within it is the same. So they got AMC and GameStop going like this, and then they got the ETF going like this, which is tethered to another ETF going like this, which is tethered to like every other. It's like it's all together. So like one can't collapse without all of them collapsing, unless like the insiders and the government like single that one out, target it, and then they'll let it collapse. And that's what they did with zombie stocks. And that's what they tried to do with GameStop. That's why it's like not gonna happen because we bought the whole company, so it can't happen. And then now they're due to make that company restore on the paper, but they can't because we own it all, and they're just gonna play bullshit forever instead of just ever be accountable. And like that's not how this works. So, anyway, I was trying to explain that because false locates. So they failure. That's how they FTD. I was talking about in episode 1 where FTDs is like if 300 million shares exist and 100 million failure to deliver, like how does that even happen? It's because they have leverage. They're allowed to create ETFs and then like put a bunch of shares, and then when you're saying how many GameStop shares is there, they don't count the ones in music in together because they're not GameStop shares. It's that ETF, even though there's GameStop shares in it. But it's like through the language of the vocabulary of the policy, they don't have to report that. And like they should because of what the nature of what it is, but that's not how it works. They just like get away with whatever they can. So they're not reporting it unless they're busted. In which case, they just pay a fine now. It's just so crazy. So so these obligations are rolling into each other now because once they're due, they just like, oh, let's take out another loan and just buy it in the future, and then those will both be due later, but they're not due now. And then once both are due later, they're like, all right, I'll take out 2 more loans, and double both of them and kick them both. So now I owe 4 loans, but they're not due now, and until it becomes 8, 16, 32, 60. You see the game, and like let's derivatize everything. Yeah, it's nuts. So I'll link this back to swaps and stock splits over here, but I connected them on this line with the cross-border ETF routing because that's where these kind of line up. So like the stock split company will like allow liquidity leverage, and then the swaps leverage will like allow like reporting leverage. So then they'll be able to like intertwine a lot of different leverages and agendas within those. So now we're gonna look at some examples of like how this stuff kind of like creates stuff. So we got border immigration gerrymandering first, right? So I've linked gerrymandering over here to the Electoral College because they kind of both dilute the meaning of a vote while they're running statistics on the system. You know what I mean? So if they're going to attempt to rig anything, they're going to like make sure it looks statistically probable, and they're going to use a lot of tools like this. So we got border immigration gerrymandering, and this highlights several issues because gerrymandering is where they like, say Texas, for example. Say like Houston is like 90% of all people, but it's only like 1% of the area. But then all 99% of the rest of Texas, there's only like 10% of people. That's not the actual numbers, but it's like, think about it like this. But then like what happened is they change the rules every year. So like if it's more favorable for more people to win, the city gets what they want. But if like they're running an election and they don't want the candidate to win, where that's the case, they'll just let the land area percentage win, and that's only 10% of people. And they'll just like rig it however they want when they need it. So that's not okay, and we got to fix that. And the Electoral College is like different too, because like that's how they do it. They'll like have it gerrymandered, and then the Electoral College will be like, oh, one county is worth this much, one county is worth this much, one county is worth this much, one county is worth this much. Oh, all of Houston wants Donald Trump, but that's only 8% of the Electoral College value, so it's 92% the other candidate. Whoever it is. It don't even have to be Biden. It was going to be anybody, but it just based on like these mechanics that they're using. And the reason I can confidently say that, and I'm not like going to sit here and deny the election or whatever, but like I'm a statistics guy, dude, data analytics and risk management. And then I watched the statistics not make sense. So all I do is ask why, and I find out everything that I'm talking to you guys about on this paper. Because remember, I'm a musician. Like, I wasn't doing any of this stuff in 2021. I bought my first stock on January 28th because I saw GameStop go to the moon, and I thought, whoa, I thought I missed it. And then I saw AMC go to 22, and I just got the stimulus check, so I was like, what can I buy? And I was looking at like companies I knew would make money. So I was like, oh, Pfizer's up 50%. But I was like, you know what? I can't buy it. I don't believe in that company. So I looked where else, and then I found AMC just went from $2 to $22, but then it went back down to like $7. And that's right when I looked. So I just bought a bunch for $7 with my whole stimulus check. I was like, whoa, I am not missing this, whatever it is. And then like, here I am learned later, and I've increased my position by like 5,000%. So I bought less shares and more expensive shares than $7. And but I say more than 5,000% because like I just keep buying now. Like every time I get money, I'm just throwing it in. I was like in school still when this happened, so I was like putting my extra money there. It was just job money, savings. I don't have a savings. It's just like this because I know what's happening to money and where the more high risk places to put it are. And I'm watching them change every day. So I know it's like consistently high risk, what's growing risk. And the GameStop thing, the risk is getting less. So it's becoming a safer and safer place for my money to be the longer it's there, even though the price is going down. We're waiting for a correction event here, not 4% on my Roth IRA anymore. So it's like, and the big move already started in GameStop, which just indicated that it didn't start because if they were covering, they should have went way higher than it, but they stopped like right now and then just said it was over and hope we wouldn't look any farther. But then they had to pull down those obligations and start kicking them over and over, triple, quadruple, or actually it's not quadruple, but it's like the derivative layers. They turn that exponent of a 2 to a 3, 4, 5, another 2 to the 6 in debt. So it's like, whoa, how long are they going to be able to keep doing that? And so, I'll get into it if we need to cover any more information about that through this. But yeah, racketeering, Ken Griffin, Ponzi scheme. Ponzi's the standard now. I already showed you the yellow words connected together. It's just racketeering. I have again over here so you can see where else it plugs in. Or let me see. Yeah, right here. I have it in white too, but so that's on the fines for crimes line, which I'll go through so you can see how a lot of these topics are related once I get there. But so we got racketeering with Ken Griffin and the Ponzi schemes. Okay, so bailouts. Too big to fail. I already covered that, and that I have as a whole leverage instrument here. Yeah, here's bailouts too, but I'll link some more stuff to that later. We already kind of talked about it, and we'll keep hitting it because it's kind of prevalent in like multiple places on this map. So, gold standards where we are. Oh no, debt crisis. Okay, so the debt crisis is like the result of multiple bailouts over and over, and then they just put them on the United States debt. And bailouts doesn't just have to be in the stock market. It's like bridge collapses. So when like the bridge collapsed, Biden came out and was like, we're not paying for that. He's going to write a package, but ultimately it's going to go to the taxpayers. So there's 341 million American taxpayers this year. And the estimated value of that bridge collapse was 88 billion, including like laborers and stuff, but it did not include supply chain fallout, which would be way more than that. However, they just took that 88 billion, and then the Fed will just print that, and then they'll just put it on the United States debt. But then every taxpayer is responsible for paying that. So now, if you just do the math, 88 billion divided by 341 million Americans, it's like around $200 or $300 for each American just to restore that bridge. But it's the nature of it. It's like, so how many bridges are they going to destroy and just keep $200ing us and put it on the debt? And so they're maintaining a system of slavery. They're keeping the bottom. They're keeping this like and they're actively using their money to make rules to keep that even harder that way. They're like, make the 99% stuck there. Do not let them get out and threaten our money and change the agendas we already funded. Don't let them do it. And then the government protects those 200 people. It's a little more than 200 people, but I say 200 because, like, if we put 200 of them in jail, the whole thing would end. Like, we only have to, they all are in bed with each other so much and so over leveraged. Like, when one thing happens to one, they all call each other because they all need to know. So it's like that. That's where we're getting the Melvin incident, which turned into like what's now UBS. So like that's where I'm looking for the next market event, like right here, and the next key collapse. It's gonna be where the swaps are sitting in that account, whatever account has the biggest chunk of that swap rollover. They're not done putting together yet for the final fucking roll into where either they run the US dollar off and get away with it, or it explodes in their face. So, and I think it's gonna explode in their face because like if they do run the dollar off and then get away with it, they're gonna have 341 million pissed off taxpayers at their front door. It's gonna be January 6th times 341. Like, I'll digress on that note. We're gonna continue just running through these influence on policy examples. Interest is the key thing here, and I bolded it because interest and inflation, which I also bolded. It's one of these instruments. That's why I couldn't see it right away. I was looking in the additional. Okay, but yeah, I bolded those because they bold like appear a lot, but undermine is different, so I bolded that one, but in a different text. It's like you'll see I have like lots of different identifiers here. I'm trying to explain these the best I can. See, I did a gun emoji. I didn't even go to the other one yet. You know what? Hold on. I'm still Dragon J28 here. Okay, so my other gun. Right here. Suicides and CEO suicides and murders. I'm not even going to cover that yet, but yeah, that goes on this line. And see if I miss any other colored things up here. Swaps, we'll get to that. That's just a pizza emoji for Pizzagates. Warehouse fires, covering blackmail. I touch on that down here somewhere, so we'll get to that. Pizzagate, rituals, those are Jeffrey Epstein. That's all kind of like where crime and pedophilia meet. I don't know if you know about like Bohemian Grove or like Alex Jones and stuff, but he kind of like talked about this section a lot, and then like it like blew his whole career up. So like in a good way or bad way. I know he's kind of like banned from YouTube, but he was able to just like retire and walk away kind of. So I don't know if you would say that's good or bad. He's a hero in my opinion because he at least would say stuff no one would. To the point where he became a conspiracy and like got banned. So he was calling people lizard people. Like, so I have like a little lizard over here with the aliens agenda. But like 20 years ago, he was saying this stuff. So, like, before anyone even knew anything. So, like, I'm super late to the party, but I'm still probably in the first 1% of people to this party. Like, think about when GameStop happens, it's like, they're talking about it going to the moon and, like, a lot of people retiring, and it's going to ruin the workforce and ruin the economy. And no, it's just billionaires that are scared. It's going to ruin their economy. And then it's going to be a depression because it's depressing for them. We actually need a depression because that's what money leaves the rich and goes to everyone else. But the media going to twist it and be like, you don't want to be depressed. We don't need a depression. So, like, they're going to have you vote for, like, anti-depression legislation, which is, like, not what you need. It's just democratization addiction again. And I digress. We'll come back. Okay, so gold standard, 1971. I already talked about that with, like, tethering and fiats. That's an important year. We'll get back to it. I'm going to reference that probably more than once. Empty vaults, I talked about that too. We're talking about like these current administration's policies and then their reputations and then what their influence is. But then they have empty vaults though. It's like, what? How are we supposed to take you for your word now when not only have you just proved that everything you've been doing for the last however long your institution has been around is a lie, but also you don't even have the assets you claim you should to continue operating So, what's going on? Okay, Venezuela. This is where I'm going to talk about Britain. Okay, so, long story short, there's this game called RuneScape. Uh, I played the game when I was a kid. I like it. There's an economy in the game where you can like play the game and get gold in it, and then like buy stuff in the game, or like, but it's all like you can do it all in the game, or you can spend money on the gold if you want to shortcut the game. But it's still actually like a pretty hard game, even if you buy money, because there's just a lot to do. It's a really big game, but importantly, it's managed by a team that continually updates the game. It's like an MMORPG. It's live. There's like membership revenue that they collect, and so it's like a big thing. It's actually like $1 billion company owned by Jagex Ltd. But Jagex is owned by Britain, and what's crazy is a lately update, just since like COVID or whatever. They had this thing called the Grand Exchange where you can put all the money in with whatever like gold and get the item immediately. You don't have to trade people. Like, say there's like 10 million people playing the game, and 500 of them are selling buckets. You can just go on the Grand Exchange and you try and buy like 1 million buckets. Well, you'll immediately get like all 500 of those that were for sale, and then your order will stay there. So anytime someone puts one, it'll just go to the highest bid, and then so it's like regulate the economy with supply and demand, like real supply and demand. So then you get like, oh, one clan want to buy out the rare items, and then the supply will just go to infinity because they just all hold it. And it's like, that's what happens in supply and demand. And so I get why the market is set up to like prevent that. But they prevent it so maliciously that it inevitably comes back around. And so, there's an item called Christmas crackers in the game. And they're rare and they're only given out on holidays, and then they like discontinued it. So if you open it, they're gone. So like after like 20 years, there's like none left. So like the one person that has one, it's just worth like 200 billion gold, and you can just sell that for like real money in like a real world trade scenario, because that is, and like a company would probably just buy that from you. But we're talking about like 10 grand for a digital asset because like a bunch of nerds really want that asset, and that's becoming precedent everywhere. Like imagine if GME does release the NFT market, and then people who play Pokemon Go can just catch Charizards all day and sell them for like $1. But they're making money just playing freaking Pokemon. And it's creating a market for that. And so we're going to have something like that here soon with digital assets. And it's going to go far beyond Pokemon and RuneScape. This is just an example. So RuneScape's gold is actually an altcoin. It was like the first altcoin too. It's like a digital crypto, and it trades at about like $1, like $1 will get you like 2 million coins. So like $10 will get you like 20 million coins, and like $100 will get you like 200 million coins, and like $2,000 will get you like 1 billion coins. So it's like so on, and they'll have like price tiers or whatever. But you see how gaming's moving there. Like Fortnite made a killing just selling like, oh, you want a pterodactyl backpack? $100. And it doesn't even do anything. Then it just kids just take their mom's credit cards and buy it. And like, there's a market there. That's all I'm gonna say. And okay, back to RuneScape specifically. So Venezuela had their currency collapse, and all their jobs became meaningless because say I work a job and get paid $100 to do the job. And then say the currency gets overprinted, that $100 becomes a penny. And now the same job pays 1 penny, but inflated all their goods. So a gallon of milk is still $100, but they are only making a penny for working. So why would they ever work again? And it disenfranchised the whole country immediately. And it was horrible. And it's happening to like a lot of other countries as their fiats that are tethered to the dollar are just collapsing because the dollar's getting weaker and weaker, and they're just falling off one at a time. And the more we print, the faster that's going to happen. So once that happened in Venezuela, a lot of them started playing RuneScape, and they're get good at the game, and it's hard to make money in that game. So if you suck, you're not going to make money. It's hard. But if you're good at that game, you can make way more playing that game than they would make in a day job in Venezuela. So now they're playing RuneScape and feeding their families. And like, it's became a stereotype because they'll have like bot farms in the game, like run by Venezuelans to just make money. And then the British company who owns Jagex goes in that Grand Exchange thing and implements taxes. So Britain is now taxing Venezuela through RuneScape at a rate per the more people play it, the more taxes collected. So it and the player base, it doesn't affect that much because it just like, oh, 2% of my transactions, but a lot of them already like beat the game, so they have what they need, so they don't really transact. So it only hurts new players, and then it's a complete gouge on Venezuela. So I just wanted to point that out, that something like that can be existing because there's a lot of these backdoor things that work the exact same way. So I'm going to continue. College protests and labor unions. So those are almost the same thing. It's like they get together in a group. So one student, not scary. Big group of students protesting, scary. One person at a job, like, I'm not going to work for less money. Not scary. Everyone at the job, we're not working for less money. Scary. So it's about like some of the dynamics. So I have the bubble highlighted, labor bubble highlighted down here. College could be too. I have like student loan bubble right here, and then I also have like schools in the business section of this hierarchy. So just these are policy influence, because like a lot of the college protests you see today, the UT Austin ordeal, probably UT Austin's broke and needs a bailout. So they need publicity. So we got a bunch of students protesting Israel and Palestine or whatever. I'm not going to take sides on that, but it's the fact they were protesting it allowed the media to take that narrative and blow up the school, and they probably got bailed out for whatever money they needed. And this is happening at like Harvard, like Ken Griffin's $400 million donation that he gets a tax credit on is also like bailing out Harvard while they continue trying to rig this. MIT, etc. Like just the college devil. Where do you get places just it's when I went to college, I went to U of H, and just to go there, I had to pay $8,000 and then $1,500 per class, and I had to take 30 classes to graduate. So you can see why that cost me $53,000. And the opportunities for me to do that if I don't have money is to become a debt slave. It's the only way. So they've lit it off education. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Influence on policy byproducts. Yeah, we got stuff like LGBTQ. Right, I was saying it's not representative of the majority of that group. BLM. Okay, so mail-in voting. Look up what countries mail-in voting is not illegal in and see how the country's doing. And look up what countries mail-in voting is allowed in and see how many of them are still left. It never works. And it's only been precedent since COVID. Here, anyway. Anyway, I don't think it's going to last. Or if it does, this country's not going to last. Technology is a byproduct. That's a good thing for the most part. Except for where they'll like use and abuse it. We'll get into those. A satellite network. That's a good thing too for the most part. Except for where they use and abuse it. Which I'll get into. A lot of the Ukraine-Russian drama is like, they're talking about like, oh, well, we're just going to like hit all the satellites. And then like, that's not just Russia-Ukraine. That's going to like knock out internet and like other waves, like microwaves and radio waves. And so like all the technology is going to like fart that day. And we're going to have like a big bridge to rebuild. How much do you think that bridge is going to cost? If the one bridge costs $88 billion that they rent a boat into. And I won't even get into like how that even happened. But the Ever Given, that was the supply chain block, and it happened the same way. It's like, man, and I knew a boat lawyer at the time, and they were just in denial of that happening. And it's like, okay, sure, that one thing was an accident on the list of all these other things. I'll give you that, and we'll leave it at that. But moving forward, I'll get into some more of the like events like that later. I won't get any personal details though, but mental health epidemic. I covered that. Kind of like OnlyFans, male loneliness, family dynamics, abortions, porn ban, that kind of stuff. Uh, they're destroying the image of a family. They don't want the American dream to be have a family and appreciate it. They want the American dream to be take that 99-year mortgage. You know what I'm saying? It's so crazy. Like, so they glorify housing, give it to one generation, and then they jack the price up. It's so horrible. And then now they're gonna cause division everywhere in between that they can and plug as many narratives as they can to keep people from figuring out what happened. 1971, guys. How many rent farms have been built since then? That's when the dollar got disconnected from the gold standard. How many people have lost their houses since then? How much houses have banks gained since then? They're sitting on over 50% of all available housing for trade right now. Like, and then what they do is keep holding it, and that's why the houses are just infinity. And it's not that they're trading them for money to jack the price up, but they're inflating money and then just letting the price of houses hide some of that inflation and rise in price because the banks use housing as collateral, and their collateral will collapse if houses aren't $1 million or more and continue to rise. So they can't afford for the housing bubble to collapse, and no one can even afford a house. So their only choice is to keep building rent farms and keep the border open and keep the homeless population growing until they can round them up for their own good. It's just so nuts. I'm going to digress again so that we don't have to talk about that horrible part of this. But you can see how that kind of stuff develops. All right, so we got other narratives at play. We got feminism, equality for women. Sure. However, it undermines women's strengths and men's strengths. We should play our strengths. Like, I'm not talking about, like, women should do what men say or get in the kitchen and make them a sandwich, and men shouldn't just be the bread makers. The family dynamic does not work without respect, and no one is going to respect anyone when we have, like, a standard of equality that's not equal. So I'm going to leave it at that. But feminism is super horrible. But I love women. I love men too. It's just I said I was straight earlier. I don't have to clarify the two different topics there, but feminism, bad news. Celebrity drama. All right, so we can all remember stuff like Steve Harvey mispronouncing the winner of Miss America, or like Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. Well, go look at when those kinds of things happen, and then, like, when a bank gets liquidated. Just, like, line up that kind of stuff. And you're going to, like, find a bunch of stuff you didn't know about or want to. Anyway. Okay, so I had Jews plus here because it's coming up a lot with, like, Israel and stuff right now. Like, anti-Semitic speech, right? It used to be, like, persecution of Jews is what it was, but it's really can apply to any group. That's what's happening. And then the media is going to, like, ban anti-Semitism, but they only do it on one side. I'm not going to take a side, but you could definitely talk about how awesome Israel all day, but you can't talk about the other side if they're awesome. You could say if they do something shitty. But if Israel does something shitty, you can't say that. You can't say that. Even if they do it. You can't say that. Anyway, I'm not going to pick sides. I'm just explaining what I'm seeing. We're going to move forward. White supremacy, police brutality. So, police is who we should be paying with our taxes. And they're getting so much hate by the media, like George Floyd, right? Okay, that's all anyone thinks police is now. Like, because the media just won't cut it out. They won't shut the propaganda off, which is illegal and horrible, but they're not going to stop. And they're making money off of it. Now they turned it into a business. And it's just, not that white supremacy is the only thing, but that could be any group, like that. KKK is like white supremacy, but the media will like talk about white supremacy and MAGA and Trump, even though they really have nothing to do with each other. It's just, dude, Trump have like majority of the black population and growing votes. And it's because of what he stands for, not because of like some racially like determined group, like and whatever media's words they want to choose to define it. So moving forward, we covered that line. Billionaire philanthropist. I'm talking about like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, like a lot of the group that's probably like society's heroes. I'm talking about like sports, famous sports athletes and musicians and stuff that would maybe like, I don't know, maybe Beyonce with like the BLM Super Bowl skit, or maybe even like some of the other Super Bowl performing artists, stuff like that. Oh, just like real big, famous people like those groups. The the media wants like the government are like, oh, the population will just do what the celebrities say. That's why on the vaccination campaigns they were like, y'all should get this vaccine. Look, The Rock's getting it, and like half of those videos were fake. It's just like there's fake needles that can just push in. So it's like, not that they were all fake, but some of them were, and it's like, if you find one fake one, why is that even happening? Like, what is going on? Why is someone creating a narrative when it's like an actual pandemic, and then there's actual like big money involved, and it's just, there too much of this stuff overlaps so much, and we see it. Like billionaires, we are not dumb, and we are not happy about it too. And we're going to fix this the right way, no matter how much you hate that. All right, so blue roofs. I'm gonna get into that when I talk about like the DEWs, warehouse fires, weapons. Okay, so Hawaii. Okay, so like the whole island burned down except for houses with the roofs painted blue, and there's a reason, and you should just go look into that. The Green New Deal, okay, and the Paris Accord. Okay, so I double starred these because they're both propagating the clean energy agenda, and I'll get to that. But basically, the Green New Deal is, let's not use natural gas and let's build a bunch of windmills. Like, long story short, it's like alternative fuels, but windmills are like 1/50th as effective, and they can't even make as much energy as the resource it costs of going into it before they break. So like it's a complete waste. Solar a little better, but not as effective still. But I think we should utilize both. But the problem is the Green New Deal is like, let's get rid of the one that works for the other one. So that's why you see like Tesla pushing EV vehicles, and they all suck. And it has to do with that. And then also Tesla's market cap, it's the big seven now. It just like went up in price, right? Like, I wonder who fucking was behind that. But it's not rollover swap insider narratives. So that might have been sarcasm. So the Paris Accord. So that one is like, I'm not going to tell you like the words they use. I'm going to tell you like what it means for us. That's what I'm saying. Like, so the Paris Accord is like, okay, basically it's with the Green New Deal, and it incentivizes long term for specific countries like the United States to gradually adopt like Green New Deal plans, and then like, so we're in 10 years we should be 0% fossil fuels and 100% clean energy cars, which don't work. But then on the exact same bill, it says China will stop using electric cars and switch all the way to fossil fuels in the next 10 years. And then while that's happening, we're selling all our fossil fuels to China. And then so in 10 years when we just collapse and have nothing, China has everything, and a currency that didn't collapse, and all the fossil fuels. And then the Paris Accord is talking about, oh, we're going to take turns doing that. So once we give it all to China, then once they have it all, then they'll slowly give it to Russia for 10 years, and then they'll give it to Ukraine, and that's how we'll have globalization. And no, once China gets it all, they're just going to take over the whole world. Like, it's so stupid. Like, it's so stupid. I can't get over it enough. But anyway, we'll get to the bubble once we get to it. they're going to operate under the guise of diversity to keep diluting this stuff too. I had it there because it's like, think about this, right? Good business structure would be like, there's work that needs to be done, and I need one skilled employee, and we'll be able to make this happen. But now it's, I have work that needs to be done. The government is incentivizing me to find cheaper labor by inflating money. So the border's open. I'm definitely hiring 3 Mexicans to do this. And that's diversely inclusive. If it's not diverse enough, we'll get rid of 1 Mexican and hire a black guy and an Asian guy, and then we're diverse. I don't need a skill labor. I need a diversity of labor. And the problem is like if you're getting cheap labor, they're probably all 3 not skilled. It doesn't matter what color they are. And then what it did is completely destroy the market for skilled labor. So skilled labor that currently exists are like already above enough money to survive, and they're just going to continue operating, and the grass is green in their backyard, and they don't know, or they're in denial. So then for anyone new entering the workforce, all these young guys, dude, this diversity just destroying anyone. It's like, oh, if you work hard, there is not a place for you. But if you're diverse, we'll just way overpay you. Yeah. It's nuts. Okay. Political parties in Hollywood. I kind of already covered that in the yellow. But yeah, that's an influence on policy byproduct. America's going to follow their heroes, right? And just do what policy says, because it's the law. Americans will just follow the law. We won't do what's right. We'll just follow the law. What kind of people do they want living here? Like, I don't get it. Climate change. Okay, I don't have to go into that, but it's like the cycle of this planet. You know what I mean? So, carbon is plant food. I said that earlier. The more carbon that comes, the more plant food, the faster they make oxygen and restore oxygen, what makes less carbon. It's a cycle. And, dude, the fear against climate is like, they're like, oh, let's be afraid of that. It's literally being afraid of the water cycle. Like, it's fear of the water cycle. It doesn't make any sense. There's more to it. The water cycle is, like, complicated, but it's related to, like, a lot of cycles, but it's nothing to be afraid of. We have a good understanding of physics, and I go into that later when I talk about like fines for crimes, market bubbles, perverted science. It's the same big pharma shit. They're like, oh, diversity and what else did I say? Gain of function, just to like undermine science and then rig it for money and then give us the middle finger about it. Like, it's so nuts. I can't. Well, I'm going to digress and move forward. Increased crime, evil, it's prevalent everywhere. It's definite byproduct of policy. And we're seeing that his courts are full now of like people like Donald Trump, for example, but not full of criminals, which are people like coming through the border, for example. It's completely ass backwards. So I think that covers just like for information on this whole section here. So now we're going to move into how I connect this all, but you have a good foreknowledge, and I'm going to take that opportunity to cut part 2 of this movie, and we're going to be back to finish it in part 3. So yeah, it's going to be a 3-part movie. Thanks for sitting with me this far. If you have, if you haven't, good luck, because I didn't get to the good stuff yet, but yeah, well, I'll be back in just a second so we can get round 3 started and finish this thing. Cool. See y'all there.